Hello everybody, Adam here, and before we get into today's episode, just a quick announcement. We are getting very close to the end of Chapter 3 of the Coldfire Chronicles, and hence the end of Season 5, and hence the end of the Coldfire Chronicles as a story. We are recording a fair bit in advance at the moment to try and build ourselves a backlog to cover us over the Christmas period, so fairly soon we're going to be recording our Q&A episode, and I know it might be hard to come up with some questions based on what's been released so far. You might be wanting to wait until the final denouement before you go, oh well, what about X, or what about Y, or what about this? But if you do have any questions you want us to answer, anything you want us to cover in our table chat that springs to mind now, please let us know, and you can do that via Twitter at Force Majeure Pod. You can do it via the Facebook page at Force Majeure Pod, which I don't check very often, I'll be honest, but I will make sure that I do. You can do it via our Discord, the link of which is in the show notes, or you can drop us an email at forcemajeurepod@gmail.com. And that is everything I want to say right now, so without any further ado, you know how it goes. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode will be brought to you after these words from our sponsors.
And now in celebrity news, award-winning chef Augusto Blope, known around this sector as the maestro of Mon Cala, is apparently leaving the glitz and glamour of big city life and taking his famed restaurant on the Interstellar Road. There had been rumours growing over the last few months that Blope had commissioned a bespoke Fray-cum restaurant from the reclusive shipwright Polto Fareem, and shipments of luxury materials and prestigious supplies had been reported being delivered to Fareem shipworks on the mid-rim planet of Ord-Wylan. Now, with Blope unveiling his impressive new mobile restaurant, called Dust, and a list of outer-rim backwaters on his planned tour, it seems those rumours are true. Our very own reporter droid KK417 managed to corner Blope for a quick interview. Roll footage.
Hello, Chef Blope. This is KK417 for G Entertainment. Could you please tell our viewers a little bit about why you're embarking on this bold new venture?
Of course! It's all about the challenge. It's gotten too easy here in the core. Everyone has tried everything before. But on the outer rim, some of those planets wouldn't know great flavors and innovation if it knocked on their door. By bringing my menu to them, it means everybody gets a chance to educate their palate.
We note that you are avoiding some of the bigger and more established planets on the outer rim, such as your own Mon Cala, in favour of what can only be called lost, forlorn and backwater planets. Some of these we have never even heard of. For example, where is this Keenabale where your tour finishes?
I don't know. That's why I have an astromech. All I know is they'll never have tasted anything like what I can do, and they deserve the chance to eat 5 courses of paradise. Now, I'm afraid I have to go. These meals won't cook themselves.
Well, there you have it, Boopnug. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, KK. In other news, there may be a scandal growing on Corellia as...
Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 23 of the Coldfire Chronicles. My name is Adam and I am the GM for this story, and I'm joined around the table by a number of wonderful players. And they're going to introduce themselves in a moment, and as they do, they're going to answer me this question. You are back on Daxos, where the story began. You have all spent several years there prior to our adventure beginning as either a convict or there by choice working for the Empire. You have escaped. You have travelled the galaxy bringing with you triumphs and despairs, victories and losses. And now you are coming back full circle to where everything began. How do you feel about that?
Hi, I'm Ross. I play Agatha, a Moralian warrior aggressor colossus, whose emotional strength is pride and whose weakness is his obsession. Agatha is not looking forward to be banging back here. It was very cold here before, it's very cold here now, and I've had much great experience in being in places that are not that freezing cold in since then. But we are back here because it's important, and hopefully we will not be here for very long.
I'm sorry, the big thing before we started, we met our friends here. The thing that's annoying you is, we're back at this cold place.
Bloody weather.
It was a prison, it's not supposed to be welcoming.
Hi, I'm Mim. I play Lassa. She's a human sentinel artisan. Her emotional strength is her curiosity, but her weakness is obsession. And it's very strange coming back to Daxos for her, because it feels like an entirely different lifetime. Not only has the prison been basically destroyed, and we know that a lot of terrible things happened here after we left, probably because of us, because they were looking for us. It's just a whole different life for her. So it's very strange. It's like looking at her past, like a stranger's past again. And this is the place where everything changed, and it feels a little bit haunting.
Hi, I'm Mikey. I play Jiren. He's a Chiss Mystic Advisor. His emotional strength is his enthusiasm, but his emotional weakness is his recklessness. And Jiren, in a real sense, who was at the prison when we were here before wasn't really Jiren, because he wasn't himself. He was caged. He was restricted by all manner of different rules and regulations. So in this very real sense, this is the first time Jiren has been here, because as very similar to Lassa, the person who was here before was a shadow. It wasn't what he is now. It wasn't what he is before. It's a new step. He's going to be arriving as himself. And wait until they get the load of us.
Hi, I'm Ed Fortune, and I'm playing the character of Beren. He is a human Ataru striker and a seeker. His emotional strength is justice, and his emotional weakness is cruelty. And the weird answer, of course, is Beren has never been to Daxos. He was someone else, literally someone else back then, and he didn't choose to go. He was forced there. And now he's returning of his own volition. It's a different place, it's a different time, it's different rules. And as he contemplates that whilst frantically pressing buttons and making sure that the ship doesn't fall into a gravity well, it occurs to him that you never really go back to anywhere. Every time you go to return to a place, it's always different. Things are never the same.
Okay, Adam, before we start anything, because I've just done a bit of an inspiring speech, and we are keeping on comms and communicating through the hub of the captain's chair, I'd like to make a leadership role to try and bring us all together, maybe give us some extra boost, make us synergize almost.
Okay, I think standard 2 purple.
Okay, so that's 3 successes and also 3 light side points. So we'll turn those light side points into an advantage, or 3, and just use that successful kind of the understanding that whenever anything happens, it gets communicated throughout the ship, and there's almost we're acting as one. So giving us the potential to put a boost on in the next few rounds or stuff like that.
I think how I'm going to make this work, as it seems to fit, is that for every roll on board ship until you land, everyone gets a boost.
That's brilliant. Happy with that.
The foolhardy gambit drops out of hyperspace into real space around the planet of Ancus in the Ancus system. The ice moon of Daxos, where our story began, orbits it erratically, and you're still a little bit out on the edges of the system. I'm spending a dark side point.
Oh, that's a good start.
It is, actually. We need the light side points.
But to counter that, something bad is about to happen.
Have you not met us? Things bad happen all the time. This way, we get a light side point out of it.
As your sensors light up, you are being scanned by the Imperial Arquitens class light cruiser, the Lamentable Necessity, stationed on picket duty around the ice moon. You know that it has picked you up entering system, but it has not yet reacted to your presence, meaning you still have some opportunity to attempt to cloak your presence and go dark. Players.
I imagine the control panel in front of Baron is lighting up and flashing. There's noises going on to suggest that we've been spotted. Jiren leans forward and says, "Can we make any evasive maneuvers? Can we get out of their line of sight?"
We can try.
If you want to make me a piloted space check, Baron, to attempt to basically lose yourself in the shadow of one of the other planets here, it is going to be 1 red, 2 purple, and a setback is a difficulty. If anybody wants to jump on computers and attempt to jam the signal to cloak effectively, even if just briefly, that is a 2 purple computers check.
Are you aware, are you on comms? Is it something that Lasser will be doing?
I imagine that having come into a hot zone, or at least knowing where you were going, I'm quite happy that the shipwide comms are on, and I assume that you're all in your stations with access to do the various shipboard tasks like this sort of thing.
Yeah, Lasser has been primed and ready for this, very tense, and it makes a lot of sense for us to have open comms throughout the ship so that we can respond as quickly as possible to the threats that are coming.
Even so, you get a, "Lasser, we need to go dark." Just because he's the hub of all of this, as the captain, he needs to make sure everything...
Right, I'll try and jam scanners.
Okay, Baron, should we do your role first of all?
Yeah, so the ship flips and goes straight upwards towards the closest gravimetric anomaly. And it's like, he literally just looks and goes, "There, click." That's 3 successes and a threat.
Do you want me to roll at the same time, or do you want to deal with that first?
If you can roll at the same time, please, ma'am.
I think we're going to be okay. Because that is a triumph, 2 successes, and 1 advantage.
Okay, so let me deal first of all with the bad stuff, because there's only 1 bad stuff to deal with. From the point you enter the system onwards until the end of things, or until it stops coming relevant, there is going to be a consistent Blades in the Dark style threat clock running. It is called the Sadness Clock. It is a 6-box clock, so threats will tick. If I can't think of anything more relevant, will tick 1 box, despairs will tick more. Every time the sadness clock ticks over, sadness happens, of one form or another.
Gotcha.
That threat, Baron, is going to put your first tick on the first sadness clock. However, between Lasser's quick thinking on slamming effectively ghost mode onto the foolhardy gambit, which, let's be honest, has had variable employment in the past, and so almost certainly has some form of advanced nope scanner blockers, combined with Baron's swift reflexes in getting the ship behind one of the various planetary anomalies, you're pretty sure that you have managed to get out of scanner range and break that contact, and indeed your warning systems beep to let you know that that contact has been lost.
In my head, what's happened is, as we've slammed up into the equivalent of a cloud, because the ship is a brick, and like everyone's just like, so slow. There's like a drop of energy, like an energy signature just left behind. So it's essentially left like a space oil slick sort of thing there, which is like, I've done what I can, but the ship's, she's not graceful.
She's a beautiful ship. She goes exactly where we need her to go. I believe in you on this. We're safe.
So, Mim, advantages and triumph.
Yeah.
What would you like to do?
I'd like to think that what happened when we went dark was I lowered our energy output so that we were able to make the adjustments that Baron made, but then almost completely cut our energy output so that we were giving out very few signals, and there's always a wake for a ship or a trail of some variety, and by interrupting the energy going through the ship, I've managed to almost dissipate that by making it look like random fluctuations. So I would really like it if the ship decided to, for the triumph, perhaps to recalibrate their system so that they're going to have a blank area for a while. So it looks like we have disguised ourselves so well that they're going to think it's an error on their system and have a brief shutdown for maintenance, giving us a window.
Yeah, I'm really happy. In fact, that something along those lines is what I was going to suggest if you didn't have an idea. So you have effectively a clear run to Daxos where they won't be able to pick you up on scanners.
Is it alright if I explain to the crew what I'm doing?
Of course, absolutely. But yes, I'm happy with that. That can be your triumph, so you have your advantages if you want to have those as bouncing boosts, or you could think of something else.
No, I'd like to keep those as a boost. I think confusing the other ship has been a really good thing for us. Alright, Baron, Duran, Agatha, what I've done is I've managed to mask our signals so that we look like a blip on the radar. More than that, without going into too much technical details, we look like a really confusing blip. Something that's been moving around and bounced off a few things. I managed to bounce it off that planetoid too. So in theory, if I was an engineer on that ship, I'd shut down their systems and have a check. What I want you to do is have a quick scan and see if you can see them scanning anything. Because if they're scanning nothing, then I think we've got them. I think we fooled them, and they're going to shut down those systems to recalibrate. And then we'll have a window. Do you understand what I'm saying? We'll have a window to get down there.
Okay.
Baron, I think it might be over to you if you want to take the helm. You do, of course, have Rizzo. I'm monitoring their scanners like Lasser said, and I can confirm that they've just shut down. I don't know how long they're going to be down for, but it looks like we do have ourselves an opportunity. I've plotted us a course that should take us from planetary shadow to planetary shadow to get us at least in orbit around that there moon. Ready when you are, Chief. And Rizzo turns his dome to look at you and blinks his eye in a astromech wink at you.
I watch the scanner as a kind of there's a green blip, and I watch the blip go boop, boop, boop on my mark, and then as it goes boop the fourth time, I'm like mark, and then I punch it.
Yep.
Is that another roll?
No, with Lasser's Triumph, you can get to the planetary surface.
It's a really ugly landing. It's deliberately so, but it's not like it's a big fat belly kind of landing rather than the more graceful movement of the previous ships.
As you get into orbit of Daxos and are looking for somewhere to land, because I think that's the next question really, whereabouts do you want to land? You can see where the prison camp was, and you can see that the Imperial compound part of that prison camp, because the prison camp, if you recall, which you might not, it was literally years ago by this stage, was in a chasm, in a valley, effectively, and the valley led open to an open plain, which is where the ice mining was done, and the cracking of the big ice chunks that were then brought back and lifted up to be processed. And the Imperial camp was at the top of one side of a cliff, with a huge lift that went up and down, and the top of the other side of the cliff that kind of overlooked is where Pyjack's home was, and where some of the people that worked here but weren't prisoners kind of also dwelled. Like Lasser, you can see that the Imperial compound has been glassed from space, is the best way to describe it. It has been pounded flat by orbital bombardments, and it is the kind of orbital bombardments that only comes from Imperial class ships. This has been smashed by the Empire themselves. On the other side of the cliff and out, you can see where Pyjack's home was. You can see the frozen waterfall behind which Coldfire's Mercy stayed. That has now refrozen, and you can just about make out where the entrance to Pyjack's shack was, the wreckage of the Imperial shuttle that 10th Brother flew over there and that was shot out of the sky as you left Daxos, that has almost entirely been covered over by snow. And indeed, the snow is falling hard here. The cloud cover is thick. It is not quite the blizzardous ruin storms that Daxos tended to get, but it is still snowing heavily. The prison camp itself, in the base of the valley, sheltered from the worst of the wind, doesn't appear to have been damaged. Or at least the buildings appear relatively intact. The doorways that were carved into the cliffs for some of the sheltered dwellings that were used by the distillery, by the mess hall, that sort of thing, you know, that they haven't been smashed flat by this orbital bombardment. It looks like all of the fury was focused on the Imperial compound.
I'd like to reach out into the living force.
Okay.
And use Seek.
Okay, so two things here to be aware of, and the first applies to all force use generally.
Mm-hmm.
Either since you have left, or always present but now you are more sensitive to it, Daxos is a dark side virgins.
Mm-hmm.
And what this means, on a purely mechanical level before we start getting into the meat of it, is there will always be a dark side force point available for use. Always, for everyone. It will cost you a conflict and a strain to use it, but there is always a dark side pip available for any force user to use.
Handy.
Free evil? Bay!
Free evil. Come to the dark side, they have candy.
The second thing is this, Ed. This, for the first time, I think in a long time, is going to be an opposed roll. So as well as rolling your force die to generate the pips, you are going up against a 2 red, 2 purple discipline check, whether you are looking for Pyjack or 10th Brother. Oddly, not if you're looking for Captain Sparkles, but that's a side issue, since I imagine that he is not on the top of your priorities of finding people.
Well, he's a light side paragon, so that kind of...
Yeah!
Hang on. Let's be smart here. If I look for the cat, then I'll probably find everyone else.
Would you think to do that, though?
Yeah, Oberon would think to do that, but Oberon would think to do that after he's already done it.
Yeah.
It all depends on whether I get the because the way it works is I roll as happening. So let's see what the dice give me. No. So that's 2 dark side plus a 3 point of dark side for a character who's desperately trying not to turn to the dark side. So what I do is I open my mind out. I don't realise it's a dark side vergence. And if you don't mind, there's just suddenly just a moment of, and there's like a very brief wobble because my hand's still on the comm, and I'm like, did anyone else feel that?
And I think that now that Beren's mentioned it, yeah, all of you, even you, Lasser, who is historically close to the Force by nature, you do feel something wrong here. There is something very wrong with this planet.
I'm going to emphasise, you mean more wrong than the fact that this place has been destroyed by the Imperium, so there's probably a load of dead bodies and corpses all over the place. More wrong than a massacre.
It didn't feel like this at Port Haven.
Fair.
Beren's weeping. He's not crying, there's just like water coming from his eyes, if you see what I mean. It's like his eyes are watering. He's kind of, there's just this moment of crestfallen look across his face. Captain.
Yep.
There's something terribly wrong here. I can't feel anyone for the stench.
Wait a second. We've done this before. Lasser feels kind of nauseous about this place now. Having twigged something didn't feel right, she let herself feel it for a second and, it made her feel a bit sick. We've done this before. And she goes to get a radio and tries to see whether there's whether there are any radios in use on the planet or any comms active. Because we did this whole... Do you remember we did this whole thing of let's search for Pyjack, when I look for our mind, it's like, has anyone tried calling him?
Yeah.
I'm not going to actually call him, but I do want to see if there are any comm signals that I can pick up.
Yeah, so that's going to be a computers test.
Yep.
I will let you roll your force dice as part of this.
Ooh, thank you.
The difficulty is going to be, I think, 3 purple, but also 2 setback in there.
And also, idly as a shout out to what you just told me a moment ago, I turn around to Jiren and say, did we ever activate the collar on Captain Sparkles?
I don't remember we did. I'll be honest, I don't know what the collar did, so...
Remember, we have had some inspirational leadership recently as well.
Yeah, so you have a boost from Jiren immediately, and how many advantage did you have? I can't recall.
I had 1 advantage.
Then you have another boost from that.
Alright, so that's handy. So this is a fairly big dice pool. Altogether, this is 2 black and 3 purple, 1 force dice, 3 yellow, 1 green, 2 blue.
That is a fistful.
That
fistful
is
of dice.
Listen to it. Ooh.
Nice.
Lovely Foley work there, Mim. Lovely Foley work.
Thank you. Okay, well, I rolled a dark side point on my force dice.
You don't have to use them. If you do use them, you can use them as successes or advantages, but it will cost you a strain and a conflict.
Yep. Right. Actually, sorry, I've just done the math, because that's a lot of dice to do the math for. And it is a success with 2 spare advantage. So I don't have to use the dark side. There's a fair few threat being cancelled out by other advantages, otherwise it would have been a lot better. But to only put 1 success. Loads of advantage, 1 success. But that's all that you need.
Okay. So for your success, we'll deal with that first of all. There is comm chatter. It is heavily encrypted. very heavily encrypted, and it is also subject of scatter. So it is being bounced around from comms masts that have been set up, presumably to deal with the fact that this place is constantly suffering from very bad weather that might otherwise interfere with radio signals. So you can't really pinpoint whereabouts it's coming from, but there is definite encrypted Imperial comm chatter around this area, the habitation zone, if I can use that term for it. So where the prison camp was, where the Imperial base was, where the other homesteads were, this kind of square mile of vaguely habitable land, there is definitely some encrypted comm chatter.
Can I do anything to try and decrypt that and zero in on any phrases that might be about this 10th brother at Coldfire or Pyjack?
Well, yeah, you've got some advantages. So I suppose it's up to you whether or not you want to make a second roll to try to basically unencrypt it stroke winnow it down, or if you're happy just dipping for what words you can pull out of the signal and not need another roll.
As a side note, is there any way I can use the Force to kind of look through the code and find something?
Not really.
That's fair. I just thought it would be very cool and matrixy, but I think I'm happy.
I kind of imagine that that's what you're doing when you're using the Force for this initial roll. If you get me, you're kind of opening your... because you shouldn't otherwise normally be able to use it for this. It's mechanics only for you, but I think that's kind of what you're doing. And again, yeah, as soon as you do kind of start to open yourself up, you just get this feeling. It is like you've just taken a mouthful of rotting meat.
Right, I'm happy. I'd like to make another roll with that sort of added determination that Lassa gets when she grits her teeth into something like, right, I found this, now I'm going to bust it open and have a look.
Okay, so it's another computer's roll. It is again going to be 3 purple and 2 setback because you're trying to crack Imperial code. You don't get your Force die to this because it's not the kind of roll, but you do effectively get 3 advantage between Jiren's ongoing inspiration and the advantages from your previous roll.
Right. If it's alright, I'm going to use them all because she is absolutely fixated on doing her job incredibly well at the moment. None of her normal bidgin-bodgin stuff. This is as professional as she gets. So 3 blue. Much better. That gives me some really good hope. I don't roll very well, people, but when I do roll well, it's a warm fuzzy feeling. 3 success and 4 advantage.
Wow. Okay.
Your black dice gave me nothing. They were complete washes. I loved it.
It's come through as a transcript rather than cleaned audio, because that is the programs that are on here to help you clean it all up. With that many successes, you've managed to basically backtrack it a little bit as well, because the Gambit sensors have been passively scanning and absorbing, getting ready for a decryption attempt effectively. Because again, it's a smuggler's vessel. You need to know immediately if people are talking about you. There has been a message sent down from the Lamentable Necessity to somewhere on the planet that effectively breaks down to, they've arrived. What are your orders, sir? And the response has been, let them come and make sure we are not interrupted by anybody else. There is then further discussion from the planet where the master, the sir, has broadcasted out a command to what is clearly several units of stormtroopers. They are talking to sergeants to then cascade it down, and the sergeant references that they give out: STS-996, STS-7865, STS-654, and CT-16334.
Yeah. So CT-1664 is Pyjack.
We got him.
Yes, it is.
We found him. We got him.
From your flat successes, it is not entirely clear where those messages are going to because they're being bounced, but you do have a whole stack of advantages.
All right. Well, we've got to try and narrow it down, haven't we? In fact, can anyone here do a very good impersonation of 10th Brother?
I don't think I want to.
I don't think I can.
Absolutely not.
Well, he's speaking, right, to all of these people, all of these stormtroopers, and then a clone trooper. That would be Pyjack. We need someone to tell us where he is. We need someone to I think the good idea would be to get on comms and bounce the signal to make it sound like it's coming from one of these other units to identify where he is.
I mean, with your advantages, I will let you, for 1 advantage per node, pinpoint where that squad is, or where that message has been received or sent from.
Okay. So I could spend all my advantage and find out where they all are.
No, there are 5 in total.
Oh, there are
and
5.
4 advantages. Because there's 10th. There is 10th brother.
A 10th brother as well, of course.
Yep.
Alright, if you give me a bit of time, I might be able to find out where some of them are. I reckon I can work it out, but I'll need time. Do you want to know where 10th brother is, where Pyjack is, or where these other troopers are? I will say that 10th brother has sent them a message saying to let us come and for us to not be interrupted. So I don't think the trooper units are a threat, but
They're also nowhere near him, seemingly. So, I would like to know where Pyjack is, and I would like to know where 10th Brother is. The stormtroopers are not a problem, and I would like, if everybody agrees, to go after Pyjack first, because he's waiting for us. He can wait while we do what he doesn't expect us to do.
I am good with this.
I mean, not trying to get in anybody's way here, but don't you think he'd be expecting that? He thinks we'll go to Pyjack first, so that's probably where he'll be, or where he'll be wanting us to be.
Not if he's just said, let them come. Just see if they're in the same place.
Alright, give me a minute. So I'm going to spend an advantage to try and identify where Pyjack is first then.
The Pyjack signal is somewhere near his house. Because it's being diffused by the stone that's coming out, you can't go, oh, he's definitely in the waterfall cave, but it is that area of the cliff face, and it is, if he's not in his house and the cave structure underneath it, he's somewhere just off from there. It is that general area.
Alright, and then it'll be another advantage to try and see whether I can find the 10th brother signal as well, because I've got a sneaking suspicion that they're going to be close by each other, because this feels too poetic to be not organised in a trap.
They are very close. Not on top of one another, but certainly in a very, very similar area.
If Pyjack's meditation chamber was somehow able to help them focus force powers, that might be why they're based there.
Are you suggesting that the vision we had of him standing in the centre of a meditation area is in fact a premonition?
It's as good a place as any to start. There may be a reason why it's a good place to... Why? I'm just saying there's a good reason why they may be there.
Okay, how close are we going to land?
Well, that's what I'm waiting to hear.
They know we're coming. I don't see any advantage of having to trek up there.
They're waiting for us, they're clearing the path for us. This is clearly some mystical woo showdown. I mean, it's a trap. Tell me I'm not the only one that says this has got trap written all over it.
Well, we said that before we left the stopover, this is a trap.
Yes.
But, the bait for the trap is something we need to get.
This is going to sound weird, but could Baron ride the ship in, but he drops us off slightly elsewhere so that while everyone's paying attention to the ship, we can make our way in a slightly different way and maybe not all be in one space waiting to be shot at or something? I don't know, there's got to be a way of doing this.
We can try, but it's probably going to be obvious. This is a Purgle, not a bird. It's a beautiful Purgle, don't get me wrong, but they'll be able to see us coming. Even if we drop someone off, they'll know we'll have dropped someone off. I can try. Who wants to jump?
I don't think it's wise.
No. Shall we just ring the doorbell?
Yeah, let's ring the doorbell, I think. If you're okay with that, Lasser. It is a trap, but knowing that it is a trap, we should be cautious and react to it as it comes. There's no way of getting to Pyjack without being near him, and we have the advantage of these stormtroopers backing off. I think the only problem with us being in close is once we get out of the ship and walk into the trap, the stormtroopers will be able to clamp the ship, take the ship away, remove our exit.
We could just land near where he is and then just wait and ask him to come out and see us.
Maybe. I don't think he would come. I think that would put Pyjack in danger.
He's been planning this. He's going to be like a toad in a stone over there, well settled.
If he realizes we are sitting there and not coming, he will make us come to him by injuring Pyjack, probably over comms, to force us to rush, force us to run to save him. If we go in slowly and cautiously, Pajak is still safe. And I believe Pajak is still safe at the moment because he's been given orders.
Show me on the scan where we're landing and we'll land. We need to land soon.
Let's go 100 yards out from Pajak's place.
Okay.
There was a landing pad directly outside his place, wasn't there?
Well, no, let's not go too close.
Well, no, it did have an Imperial shuttle blown up on top of it, so I'm not sure it's useful anymore, but...
Yeah, no, 100 yards out.
Land.
Everybody get warm. It's going to be cold out there.
You land the ship. And yes, your crew all assemble by the exit port, you know, the cargo bay which then drops down. Igwil, Throm and Jeblin have got kind of cold weather gear over their various bits of patchwork armour. They've presumably been given their blasters back.
Oh, yeah.
Their blaster carbines. You know, they've tooled up with knives and that sort of stuff and are kind of ready. And Prinkle is there. He has taken his overalls and he has at some point rivet gunned metal plates over various parts of his body. He has got his repulsor broom in one hand that he's holding like a sword, and on his hip is a blaster pistol that is too big for his small hands, but that he has found somewhere.
Was it on Jiren's dead? I bet it was.
Yes, yeah, almost certainly. It's all of Jiren's discarded guns are hanging off him from various belts.
I also think he's wearing the tea cozy. Now, that's not going to really translate to our American listeners, but I think he probably is, to keep himself warm, wearing a tea cozy on his head.
Holes cut out for his ears.
Well, there's already got holes in a tea cozy. His ears pop out through the spout and the handle.
Yeah, kind of sideways on. And he's looking very determined and kind of nods as you get down there.
Good to see you, my friend.
Yes. We will end this, my friends. We will bring them home.
Yeah, we'll get our friends back. Interestingly, even though Jiren has been saying everybody wrap it warm, he is wearing his nice, shiny, not very warm coat. And that's it. Normal clothes, just waiting to go out.
Oh, is anybody wearing the Jedi robes? Because that's going to have to be a head mess for 10th Brother if anyone sees it.
Baran is not going for yet another costume because he's already got enough action figures. He is in the greys and whites, which is appropriate for where they're going, kind of the camel cloak and the mono goggles. So he looks very much like a stereotypical bounty hunter in many ways.
Can I say, Lassa, I know some people have lightsabers and stuff like this, but what I think would be cool for Lassa is if she has a plasma welding torch with her. She isn't a lightsaber, but it's still a very nasty thing to have to fight against. She's got that kind of strapped to her back. It shouldn't be too dangerous, but it's not got a massive portable power supply like your average cordless drill that you get from home base. But it is enough for, if need be, if the gun's out the hand and there's nothing else to do, it'll be a surprise.
Speaking of portable power supplies,
Yeah.
Are you taking the orb?
I'm not sure if anybody else will have seen it, but yes, it is a Hail Mary, but she knows how to use it.
Has it recharged?
It's recharged enough.
Okay.
It's got a small amount of extra power in because it takes life force. It's the life force of a planet that's been poured into it. So it's nearly empty still, basically. But it could be useful for one small push if needed. But she's not going to tell anybody else she's got it, because if more people know about it, there's a chance it can be ripped out of people's minds, you know? And she still thinks of it mostly as a battery, so her head isn't a big ball of, I have a glowing magic orb. She's thinking, and I've got a battery.
I don't think it's too much out of how Jiren works that he, if he was a gambling man, would say, that bag has an orb in it on your side. I don't think he's going to be surprised by this. I mean, it may be that he went to look for it himself, and it wasn't there.
There's a troll doll in a ball.
Before we go, Jiren steps close to Prinkle and opens up his little satchel and rummages in it, and he takes out an orb. It's smaller than the one we have, but it's got a similar green glow to it.
His eyes become all pupil.
Oh no! You're going to get him all high before we go out.
It's fine. It's fine. It's about the size, I'd say, of a golf ball, rather than the thing that fit in a head sort of thing. And he holds it for a second, and he looks at Prinkle, and he looks back at it and says, Prinkle, I want you to look after this. Just be careful with it. It is not what you think it is. It is not the orb. It will not play with your mind, but it will. If you're in need, or any of your fellows are in need, act as a way to bring people back into the fight. If, for example, a giant robot pulls off my arm again, crush this. It can be crushed quite easily. And push it into the wound. They will continue to fight. They will get up. They will be able to carry on until the end of what has been going on. I'd like you to keep an eye on people and make sure if something bad happens, you are there for them, okay?
Okay, my friend, that is something I can do.
I know. I don't want you getting close to him. We are not the fighters in this. We are here to support them. You and me. We're going to keep everybody alive, okay?
Yes, my friend.
Okay.
We shall do this.
And he nods with determination.
And he closes his bag. Lasser, there's still glowing stuff in that bag.
All right. She nods at him with an understanding. Oh, Agatha.
Yes.
If you're going to throw me at anything, or throw anything and I am on top of it, please give me a little warning. Just, I need you to remember that we can work together, you know? You don't have to do this all on your own. You can say, I need help over here, and we'll all plough into it. You don't have to do it on your own. Because if we work together, I reckon we can do whatever we need to.
I have been trying to be more mindful of my surroundings more recently. I will bear this in mind.
Alright, because if I end up with a lightsaber chopping off one of my arms, I do not trust any of you to be able to build me an arm like I did it. Do you understand that? Me no army, you no armies.
I understand that.
As we're heading off, Baron just very quietly approaches Prinkle, points at one of the blasters that he's carrying, and goes, "This I can do." And I pick up the pistol, I adjust the grip for his hands.
Yep.
Because guns I know. And there's like, without even saying anything, there's like an Allen key in my hand and I'm just doing the thing, and it's effortless as he passes. I think you might find that a little easier, though I'm so sorry.
Thank you, my friend.
And Prinkle reaches up and kind of like almost cranes on his tiptoes to put a hand on your shoulder and grips you with all the strength of his little hand and goes,
Let's go be heroes, eh?
and grins and turns and opens the gangplank. Outside, the storm is blowing, the blizzard is raging, visibility is cutting down. And I think the last thing our camera sees as we close off this episode is a group of brave and desperate heroes setting themselves against the storm as they step out into the snow with determination in their hearts and hope in their pockets. And that's where we're ending this episode. Thank you very much to my players as always. Thank you as always to our listeners as well. We are so glad that you are here with us as we narrow in on our goal. And we will see you next time. Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.